So very good afternoon to one and all present here. So we are having engineer Keval Dave with us. It's my pleasure and I'm very glad to introduce our own alumni, engineer Keval Dave. Hope I am audible loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So engineer Keval Dave did his bachelor's in engineering with a subject electronics and telecommunication from BVM Engineering College, and master's from Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology with machine learning as a specialization, machine intelligence as a specialization. He's experienced with machine learning. He's presently working with FactSet as machine learning engineer, and previously he has worked with Stribo as a developer in 2015. And his interest is in artificial neural networks, metacognitive and machine learning. He has got number of certifications in structural machine learning, natural language processing, improving deep neural networks with hyperparameter tuning, regularization and optimization, convolutional neural networks, sequence modeling by deep learning and AI, and so on. So I welcome engineer Keval Dave to share his experience and expertise on today's topic on IoT in wearable devices. So I welcome you, engineer Keval Dave, sir. I hand over the session to engineer Keval Dave.
Thank you for the introduction and welcome everyone. So almost everything about me Hiren already mentioned. I'll be taking today's session on IoT in wearable devices, where we'll talk about I'll just take a sec to share my screen and my slides. Let me know if presentation is visible.
Yes, it is visible, sir. You may even turn off your video to just save your bandwidth.
Yes. So for now, I'll keep it on. Let me know if there is some hindrance in the voice. So as we already mentioned that I'll be talking about IoT in wearable devices, and I'm Keval Dave. I'm currently working as machine learning engineer in FactSet Systems, Hyderabad. And so basically, what are the main component of the IoT system? So we can classify each and every IoT system which with three main basic components. First is the device, second is the internet, and third is the analytics. So when we talk about these devices, so an IoT devices can be as large as the self-driving cars and much more complex data models. So for example, self-driving car would have a complex data model which and processes the data, analyzes it, and uploads it to the cloud in the real-time environment. And this everything can be fitted easily because car has a lot of space. So we don't have to worry about those. And in this big things, this big IoT things, we have that can be directly connected to the IoT server, directly connected to the internet. And we, on the other hand, we have a small things like our mobile phone. Right now, there is a trend going on in the of the solar panels. You can see solar panels everywhere, and it uploads how much power it has produced in the day and upload it to the server. And in your mobile phone, you can see how much power it has been produced in this day. It is a very simple system, but yet it can have a direct connection to the internet because the inverter is a large device and we have space in there to fit this complex circuitry. On the other hand, we have non-IP things, which are like small things. For example, wristband, we have smart bands, smart bulbs, and such things are really small devices. and those things cannot be directly connected to the internet. The chips inside those chip required to connect it to the internet would be a large chips. We need a bigger antennas and complex protocols. So bypassing that, what we do is we connect those simple things with the gateway. Now the connection between this IoT device and the gateway can be wired or can be wireless. For example, the smart band that we can wear in our hand is connected to our smartphone via Bluetooth, and then a smartphone is connected to the internet. So a device sends and receives data from the smartphone, and smartphone communicates with the IoT server, and so communication. And this entire thing is a bi-directional. So device can send information to the smartphone, and smartphone can send information to the device. So what are these things in the three things that we have mentioned? So first is the device. So in this device, there has to be there can be a sensor or action, or can be both sensors and actions that it can perform. For example, it can smart band can sense your pulse rate and give action like a vibration sense. It can have display and such things it can provide. So now we need to connect this device to the internet, and that is the basis of Internet of Things. Now in this connection, we have internet connectivity and protocol. So basically, first we need this device, a way to communicate to the server, way to reach the data we have on the device to read to server and vice versa. And second thing is the protocol. The protocol is basically the language that that device used to communicate with the server. And we will come to that in a bit, why this having a protocol is very important. And the last thing is the server. When data reaches to the server has to analyze this data and see patterns in this, and identify the actions. And we can build application using this data. And this application that is based on the data provided by the device. And this action can also be sent back to the same device or different IoT device. And this is what makes the IoT universe beautiful. Sometimes IoT is that is Internet of Things is also identified as Internet of Everything. That at the end we want to connect everything to the internet. We want to send and receive data from each and everything. But we will try to make a thought experiment. We will build a device. Let's say we are starting to build a device, and what are the steps we have to follow to build an IoT device. So first we need a sensor. We need a sensor, and we have to identify how we'll make this sensor work. So for example, let's say we are building the we want to measure the heart rate. So there is a concept called PPG. You might have seen that there is a device, they put it on the fingers like this, and it shows you heart rate. It is the same concept that can be also that also comes in the smart bands, and can also be identified using a smartphone camera and smartphone flashlight. So how it works is basically it has it has one light source and two photo detectors. And now when this light source emisses light, it goes to the capillaries in the finger or in the on your wrist, and the light is reflected back. Now whenever our heartbeat occurs, the pressure in our capillaries varies. You can see when we can see the variation in blood in the capillaries during one heartbeat. That is the pressure is the amount of blood in the capillaries increase and decrease and increase and decrease and so on and so forth. So when the light is reflected back, we can measure the amount of light that is reflected back using the photo detectors, and variation in this lights in the photo detector can be used to measure our heartbeat. Okay, So we don't have to take my word for it. I did a simple experiment. What I did is on the smartphone, I started smartphone flashlight. I put my finger on it with some little pressure, and I can feel the sensation in my fingers. And I started recording that video on HDR mode with 60 frames per second. So you can see that you can see the amount of light that is reflected back varies with each heartbeat. Now this is not consistent, as my pulse rate is much in normal pulse rate is larger than 60. So 60 frames per second camera does not capture it accurately, but it gives an idea that, okay, if we capture this reflected light at let's say 1,000 times per second, then we can accurately measure our pulse rate. And the various smartbands available currently in the market can detect this pulse rate with error less than even 3 to 5% per minute. So now we have measured this heartbeat, and we want to send this to our IoT server. Okay, so I like to take a moment to appreciate the advances that has happened in electronics and communication in past years that makes this possible. Like all the integrated electronics, wireless communication, the antennas has become smaller and smaller. And due to all this, even a small chip in the smart band can send that information to the smartphone and subsequently to the servers. So this is a great achievement, and truly, like, we are converting a sand that is silica we obtained from the sand, and we convert it into the smart devices that we have today. So now that we have all the antennas, all the chips that is required to send the connection, but still this has to be very small. We have to fit everything into a very small device. Now to do that, the HTTPS protocol is a very complicated protocol to be fit into a smaller chip. So for IoT devices, there is a protocol called MQTT protocol. So what this basically does is, instead of having a complex, it only does two things. It is called publish and subscribe protocol. So it publishes, let's say, temperature and 24 degrees. Okay, that is the only information that it needs to send. Temperature and the name of the topic and the value of the topic. For our case, it will be heart rate, and let's say, for example, 75. And then this, then it goes to the MQTT broker. Now this broker can be our smartphone or any other device we can have as a broker, and that will receive this information, and that device is connected to the internet. So now this publishes this to any mobile device or any server, and now server can have send this information back. It can analyze the data and send the information back in the same way. Like, okay, action, let's vibrate is the one action. Then it can, okay, vibrate for 1 second, and it can send to the smart band, and smart band will give us the vibration, sensation, or notification in that. So with minimal amount of overhead, we can send all this information in the MQTT protocol. So why do we use the MQTT protocol? First is it is very lightweight and efficient. It has very little overhead. Like, for example, to send the temperature data, we just send temperature and the temperature data. It is bidirectional communication, so device can receive and send data both to the broker, and it can be now this broker can be it is scalable to million things, because it is capped on the broker capacity and not the capacity of the your device. So this broker can handle like about a million devices. There is reliable message delivery. So our most of our devices does not have reliable internet connectivity. So it is getting lost. It can get lost from time to time. So what it can do is it can try again to send a message. It can send a message and wait for the message. If it is not received, it can try again and again multiple times to make sure that whatever information that we try to send is reached to our server reliably. And this is quite important. Now think about a heart rate monitoring system. If we missed, if a significant event has occurred and due to some cellular connectivity we are not able to send a message, then we are losing all that information. So having this process that we can depend on, if we send a message, it will be delivered. So that's a good part of it. Also, it has got security enabled. That is, it has got OAuth authentication. So when you send information, it can only be accessed all the devices that are allowed to use that information, so that your vital information is not gone public. Like if there is issue with your heart, it should not be on internet. That everyone, it is not a public information, it's your private information. So that is the main reasons that we use MQTT protocol in our IoT devices. Now we detected the heart rate. Simple things, that is light LED and a photo detector. These two are very small things. It can be fitted in a small device, and with our MQTT protocol and connectivity, our information has reached to our server, IoT server. Now what can we do with this information? So what we basically get a signal across time. At this time we had this much, we received this much light in our photo detector, and that varies across time. Now this signal can be analyzed to convert the signal into the heart rate. Now if this heart rate goes out of normal range, then you can get a notification. It can send notification to your loved ones that there is some urgency, please do something about it. So this has the benefit of instantly your doctor or anyone can be contacted and steps can be taken right away. It can track your heartbeat across time and see, for this date, this time, this was our heartbeat, and you can see how it varies across time. So now we know your heart rate at each and every date and each and every second. So now what else we can do with it? So we can, when we work out, our pulse rate increases. You are running, your pulse rate increasing, and so on and so forth. So it can identify the intensity with which you are working out. It can classify a workout like, you are in aerobic workout zone, you are in anaerobic zone, you are in warm-up zone, you are just stretching. So such classification can be made, and you can analyze, you did a great workout, you burned with fat burning intensity for 15 minutes. So you have burned this much of fat. And as people are getting more and more cautious about their fitness, this is become a very good feature. It can also push through to your limits, like whenever we run. So it can measure your heartbeat and say, you can run even faster. You have the capacity, your heartbeat is at this rate, and you can push yourself a little harder. You can go on. And if you are running much faster, and if it is you are pushing yourself over the limit, then it can take a break, slow down a bit, and it can stop you from getting injured. So such things can help you manage a workout. Now what is the opposite of working out? Is the relaxing. So as our heart rate increasing when we work out, it decreases a lot when we sleep. So based on the heart rate, we can identify, I am sleeping or I am awake. Now when your device know that you are sleeping, even sleep can be classified into different categories. One would be REM sleep and a deep sleep, that is non-REM sleep. So In deep sleep, so most of our dreams come into REM sleep. That is, our sleep quality is not so good. And in deep sleep, we're getting a good quality sleep. So you can monitor, okay, out of 8 hours of night, I was able to sleep very good in this much time. And all those analysis can happen. So now we know that, okay, how sleep went during the night. What else we can do? We can have a smart alarm that this alarm will wake you based on your REM sleep. If you are in deep sleep, you know that you are getting a good rest, which will be helpful. So it can wake you up if you are in REM sleep only. And in that way, you will, in REM sleep, we are not getting much rest. So even if we wake up earlier, it will not affect your body that much. So we can have smart alarms. The other thing that we can do is opposite of flexibility model is keeping awake. Just imagine if you're driving alone and you are driving for a long time, and the most of the accidents occur because drivers fall asleep while driving. And if smart band can detect, okay, this is person is sleeping, he can wake him up, it can send vibration, it can play music and whatnot, and just make sure that the driver is awake all the time. Let's say for other example, if the student is studying a subject, like the next day there is an exam, and he want to make sure, okay, he want to complete these chapters, and if it is getting dozed off, then it can send you a signal, okay, you are getting dozed off, you can go on for some time for one more chapter, and if it dozed off, you can wake us up. Like not, you don't have to tell your parents or friends that, okay, I'm going to sleep for 5 minutes, please wake me up, and before you know, it's 50 minutes. So it helps that way. What else it can do? Like it can, for example, now everything is connected to the internet. So if while studying you fell asleep, it can send a signal to your electric kettle that, okay, boil the milk, and I'm waking him up. And when you wake up, you already have boiled milk that you can use for coffee. You can make a coffee instantly, and you are awake to study for 1 more hour. So this kind of life becomes easier with such devices that we can have. Uh, let's go on. What else we can do with this sleep tracking and IoT device? So basically, now what we are doing is we have a devices, we have a IoT protocol. Now with this particular heart rate information, we can do lots and lots of things to make our life easier. So one more thing is the night light control. So when you fall asleep, it can detect, okay, you're fallen asleep, it can turn off your lights in your home, that okay, and you can get a better sleep that way. And many people have to try to keep nightlight on, because if we have to wake up in the middle of the night, it is the room is have some light, so you can travel. So it can just turn off the light, and whenever you wake up, your band detects, okay, you are awake, let's turn on the light. Bulb is also, it can be also an IoT device. It is connected to the smartphone and the internet. So it can send action, dim the lights, action, turn on the bulb. And such application is built on top of this. Another thing is we can automate our morning routines with this. Okay, now that we woke up, okay, play some music, play news or sports update, open curtains, and hit milk, start the geyser, have the hot water ready to take a bath. So such things are already in place as soon as you are awake. So with connecting things with a simple one information about your heartbeat, that is done using just a LED light and a photo detector. That is the only two things. And these photo detectors and LED lights comes very cheap. Like you can, it's very inexpensive to begin with such a small device. We can do such a big things. So now that we have just done using with the signal, we calculated the heart. We can also identify your stress level with the signal that is sent. So when there is a low variability in your heart rate signal, that indicates that you are at high stress level. So with the signal, we can analyze, and to analyze these signals, we can use time series analysis and various machine learning techniques as well to identify, dependably identify your stress level. And once it identifies, okay, you are in stress, you are you are giving a presentation and your stress level is increasing, have a sip of water. So such things can happen during stress monitoring, and it can send notifications that, okay, you are in stress, you can take a deep breath. It can send a control messages, okay, some suggestions, okay, you can do this, you can in worst case you can count reverse from 10. So thus this information can be sent using this stress monitoring. So this everything we have done using a very simple thing called a heart rate monitoring system. What else? So any questions till now? So we have come onto our first section. So any questions? Okay, if we are good, let's move on to build another IoT device. That is, till now we were using the photo detector, and what else we can do? That is the smart pen. We can build a smart pen with the same setup. So let me explain what I mean by smart pen. So you can see an image of a pen on the screen, which has got lid, so you can write it normally as you write with any pen. But it has got one more feature. That is, it has a small square cutout in the center, and in this square there is a two devices. That is, infrared emitter and infrared camera. So infrared emitter sends the infrared light. It is get to the paper, and that light is reflected back, and it is captured in the infrared camera. And as we are using the infrared light here, it is independent of the environment, lighting environment. You can write in the dark room and still it will capture what are you writing. So basically how this smart pen works. So with this smart pen, you will also need a mini dot paper. So you can print out a paper, or you can buy it. There are many mini dot papers available online. So you can print it out yourself as well. And so how this works is a video. Whenever we talk about a video, is basically a set of images. When you can see my face here, that is images over time, and these images can be used. So for example, if I move my head by 20 degrees, then it can be represented as a motion vector. Okay, first image was straight image, and the motion is into 20 degrees left direction. So that way you can represent a video across time. And this motion vector is the basic component in the video compressing. So whenever we video this motion vectors helps a lot. And with the advances in this technology, we will be able to see that, okay, whole my session, that whole the video, whole session that I'm giving right now, my entire video can be sent, all 1 hour video can be sent in few images. In the bandwidth it takes to send few images only. And this is achieved by combining machine learning and video processing techniques together. So, okay, coming back to the basic, that is, what is motion vector? So when this pen captures the image, it gets, like, let's say 10 dots from the paper. And now this 10 dots has moved 2 millimeter in the north direction. That means that pen has moved 2 millimeter in the south direction. And with this information, with tracking these dots, direction with these dots are moving, we can capture the pen strokes. that okay, I've write, let's say I'm writing K, then it can identify, okay, it is moving in vertical direction, then slant and the other slant. So it can capture this. And so what are the advantages of using this smart pen? So let us revise that, okay, we have got the sensor in place, that is infrared emitter and camera. Now this sensor can we have our chip that sends the data to our smartphone, and this is done using MQTT protocol. And when the data is received in the smartphone, it uploads it to the cloud. So this is the whole process that is happening in the backend. And when this entire thing happens, there are many advantages to it. So you can directly store your notes into cloud, and it will be there forever. Like, okay, you don't have to go through all the notes you have to search. Now this notes that are captured can be converted into OCR. With the OCR, we can capture, okay, what you have written. And now we have converted into text. We can search. So the fifth point is searching notes. Okay, now you are revising your notes and you are searching for a specific topic. You can directly search, okay, in which page I have this particular information, and it can directly search and take you to that particular notes. You can draw as well. You can create a doodle. For example, let's a lot of our time goes into drawing images for both medical and engineers. So we let's say we are drawing an induction motor diagram. So we can some of the people have like very good drawing skills, some of you may not. And with this, it becomes super easy. Like you can have a bad drawing and it just identify, okay, what are you trying to draw? And it takes the image of that from the internet, and it can just replace it with that particular image. So there is one Lash Draw API service by Google, which allows you to play like, okay, try to draw a cat, and it will identify, okay, this is cat. And you can search it and you can put the image of that directly. Okay. And we can also have like a smart shift. For example, let's say that it's a maths class and you are trying to draw a circle and some diagram in it, and circle never draw perfectly without the protector and all complicated devices. But with the digitization, you can draw any circle. Okay, it's a circle, let's make it a pretty circle and draw the lines properly. So such things become easier, and we can have entity recognition embedded with that. For example, when you are reading the notes, you have written, for example, let's say induction motor or a transistor, and then it identifies, okay, it's a transistor, and at the same place you can click and identify, get all the information about the transistor, and without moving around. So now when you're reading notes, you have to, okay, I don't know about this, let me Google it up, let me see. But everything can be come down into one small application. And all this again is done using a very simple sensor, that is IR emitter and IR camera. So let's go one step further. With just these two things, we can just have a black and white, because we are just basically tracking the motion of our pen. But can we draw? Can we draw a sketch? So that can also be done using. We can have a pressure sensor. We can identify, okay, with what pressure you are drawing this particular stroke, and based on that, we can vary the color on in the application. We can have a different option available in the paper, that okay, if you click on red, then that particular stroke in the application will be shown as red. And we can have multiple pictures drawn on the same page. We can crop it out, and all those things become possible using the smart pen. I'll go back a couple of slides to mention about the audio as well. So now with the in this paper, we can have a few buttons, that is a record, pause, stop. So when you press on the record, you put your pen nib on the record button, it will identify that, okay, this particular button is about record. and it will start recording the conversation that is going, or any, like, for example, let's say in the middle of lecture you are taking notes, and let's say in this session what I'm speaking, you are taking notes, but you can also record that and see, okay, at this particular time when the speaker was speaking this, we wrote this. So even if we miss a couple of points, it can be captured as well in the speech. Where this buttons is also printed on the mini dot paper, so we identify, okay, where we are. And it also allows you to sync this audio with the text that is going on. It is very helpful, for example, in the math lecture when all the calculation is going on and a professor is explaining, okay, what is the concept behind doing these particular steps or doing this particular calculation as well. So this is how we can build a smart pen with, again, two simple sensors. What else you can do with the smart wearable IoT devices? So next thing would be is the hitting tops. So
Hello.
yes.
Yeah, sir, there was one question from one of the participants.
Yes.
It was, she asked about to elaborate more on direction when we are using pen.
Okay. Sure, I will explain that.
Yeah.
So yes. This pen, we use this pen to write on a mini dot paper. Okay. So it captures it each and every moment. It captures the image of every dots. Okay. Now we can use this dot across time. Okay. In which direction these dots are moving so basically you will get a video in which these dots are moving across time because this particular cross section of the pen is capturing the video. So you can see a square where dots are moving, and we can track each and every dot in which direction you are moving. So the technique that we use here is called motion vectors. So for example, let's say in my entire video that currently going on, my head is moving, but the background remains. What it is actually sending is, okay, my head, this particular portion in the video, it has moved to the left or moved to the right, but it sounds like, okay, but background has not moved. In similar way, each and every dot is can be identified in a video that, okay, this particular dot is moved in this direction. And when we know that, okay, this dot is moving upwards by 2 millimeter, we know that our pen has moved downwards by 2 millimeter because it's a cross section. When we go down, dots move up. Go left to right, the dot will move right to left. So by reversing these motion vectors, we can identify the direction in which the pen is moving. I hope that makes it clear. Any other questions we have? Or any follow-up questions on this?
Nothing in the chat box, sir. Any other participants having any query? Okay. Yeah, sir, you can continue then.
Thank you. Yes. So the next portion is the hitting tops. So till now we have seen the only two sensors. Now we will move further than this. Now we will go into some high level sensors and high level actions that we can perform. That is, one particular is the hitting tops. So it's a wearable shirt or a t-shirt that can heat up or cool down based on the temperature that you can set. Okay, let's say it's a winter and the temperature is too cold outside. You can set, okay, increase temperature of my shirt so that I don't feel that much of heat, that much of cold. Similar way, if you are in sun, you are walking out in the sun, you can again set the temperature of your wearable top to, okay, cool it down. It's too much heat outside. Like it's kind of a portable heating and cooling mechanism. So this device is basically an action. Right now it is just an action. Okay, it can perform some action. It can be connected through to your smartphone. You can have, so you can see on the left sleeve there is a couple of buttons that these buttons are used to actuate this heating and cooling pads on the shirt, and we should able to control this using our smartphone, that okay, I want to increase or decrease the temperature. And same concept applies here. It goes to your smartphone, it sends and receives data in with the smartphone connects to the server, and everything happens into the using the MQTT IoT protocol. And I'm just using MQTT protocol because that is one of the most famous ones and most used ones, but there are various other protocols as well for the IoT devices. So we can add a sensor into this whole mechanism, which makes these things very effective. That okay, we can measure a surrounding temperature, we can have a heat sensor that is measure the temperature, we can measure a body temperature. With COVID, you can see everywhere that with that thermal gun that measuring your temperature, and such thing is possible with things will shrink it down. We can, and now we know the surrounding temperature, now we know the body temperature, everything is connected to the IoT server. It can identify, okay, you are feeling too much cold, let me automatically increase the temperature of your variable heat, your variable heating device, and now it automatically changes the temperature. And this way it becomes very easy to control your body temperature in the cold weathers, in summers, etc. Now we have this temperature information. We can use this temperature information for automatically, not the variable device, we can change the temperature of the air conditioner as well. We can change the speed of the fan, everything when it is connected to the internet. So when you are sleeping, you know the quality of the sleep. You know that okay, from deep sleep you are going to REM sleep, and you might wake up and your body temperature is not aligned with the room temperature. So it can directly change temperature in your air conditioner or fan speed, and that way you will have a better sleeping experience. Like it avoids waking up and just changing your fan regulator and moving back to sleep. It can have various other help as well, like in the cold, so setting up the geyser temperature, that okay, it's a cold weather, you need to heat water more to have good shower experience. So this things can happen using this technology. And right now, until now, everything that we have mentioned, all the application, it's not future technology, it's not today's technology, it is yesterday's technology till now. And whatever I'm telling from this, we are moving at much faster pace, and technology is evolving day by day. So all these products that I have mentioned already are in the market. We can buy anything, or if you want, and of course if we have enough money. So the next portion is the bone conduction technology. This is a very interesting technology that currently you can see I'm using my headphones that are inside my ears. Now with the bone conduction technology, instead of putting my earphones in my ears, it can be in front of the ears, as it is showing cross section. It is showing on top of there, but it is actually over here. That is in the front of on the diagonal to the ear. And with this, it sends the vibration to your ear bone, and it directly goes to your brain. There are two main advantages of using bone conduction technology instead of in-ear headphones. Is the one main thing is, let's say I go out on a run, and when I'm running, I want to hear music, and I cannot just use my mobile device, or because surrounding people might get disturbed due to that, and I cannot use my in-ear speakers because uh, uh, if there is environmental sound, someone is honking behind me, I can get, I need that information. Okay, someone is behind, and some vehicle is passing on, so I can be safe. Uh, while you are driving, a call comes, and if you're using, first of all, doing this while driving is a perfectly bad idea. We should not do that. And even in ear headphones has the noise cancelling effect. So even if some noise is coming from the car behind you, you won't be able to hear it. So, but with bone conduction technology, your ears are open, so you can hear surrounding sound as well. So that is the main advantage of using bone conduction technology. So why do we use? There is one more. One caution I want to put out, that it uh, it cannot fix the attention thing. That is like, you can only give your 100% attention to one thing at a time. If you're giving 100% on your call, your driving will get affected. But at least you will get surrounding sound to make better decisions. With this bone conduction technology, we can have something called a smart cap. And this smart cap can have, using bone conduction technology, it can directly send sound signal in your ears. It has a microphone embedded in the cap. So whatever you're speaking, so basically it can be used as your uh, as my wireless Bluetooth headphones. It does the same, all of those things. And uh, it can have switch, and same way we can charge it, and we can use it in the similar manner. The primary, one of the big disadvantage can be like, it makes the copying exams easier, but that is problem for some other day. But uh, the, we can use it in multiple different scenarios. So now, with all the technologies we have, we reach to a very sophisticated technology called smart glass. We can Google has released its product, smart Google Glass, and they didn't send it to the consumer market due to some security and privacy reasons, but it is still available as an enterprise. So many of big companies in the world is using Google Glass. They're giving the Google Glass to their employees to make their work very easier. So let's dig into this Google Glass. So what it has. So first, it has got the microphone that can listen. It can connect you to the Google Assistant. It on the front, the rectangular portion you can see is a small display unit on the top of your eyes, that is over here. So whenever you are discussing, you can just have one glance. Okay, what is happening? For example, if I'm giving the presentation, I can have, okay, what is in the next slides, what I want to speak. So such it can give many different display information in the glass. It has got bone conduction speaker, that is, when we wear the glass, uh, the stick will reach here, and that is used to send sound signal uh, to you, and you will be able to hear whatever Google Assistant, whatever this glass has to say. You can play music, whatever you want. And it also has the camera that fitted into the glass that can see whatever you are seeing. So what are now coming back? So with microphone, display unit, and camera and speakers. So eyes and ears are the two very important senses in our body. And with this glass, both all you are hearing, all you are seeing is sent to the cloud, and you can get you can get the information back in visual and in sound format. So on in the most important five senses, two senses are covered. Uh, so what are the applications for this? So this is currently used in the live streaming. For example, let's say if uh, a person comes, right now it is used for agriculture, that okay, you are in the middle of farm, uh, your machine that you are using for plowing or various stuff is malfunctioning, it is not working properly. You can contact to the customer care, that okay, and they can tell, okay, can you show me this particular portion? Okay, let's say your car has broken down in the middle of the road. You can call someone and you can show, okay, this is what I'm saying. They can give you the instruction, okay, do this in your car and your car will be fixed. So this becomes the assistant really easier. We can see that how much easier it has become already in the with the screen sharing. I can share your screen. I can share my screen. Right now, if there is any issue, the support guys can see exactly what I am saying. Now we are instead of screen, we are putting it to everything. Like what I can see, the other person can also see. Uh, we can have the manuals. For example, when we are working with, let's say, 8085 processor, you are doing some embedded system or any and Arduino device, let's say, and always it used to have it happens every time that okay, we have to go open the manual. Okay, go to the fifth pin, then we count. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Connect this to uh, our sensors, our actions, and everything. But with the manual, it can identify, okay, this is Arduino device. It can put the manual right up the screen, and you can ask specific information with your voice command. Okay, give him information about this particular thing. Okay, what is what is the specification of and image captures become easier. Like you went on a hiking trip, you're just saying, uh, just press here, swipe, and your image is captured. Whatever you are saying is captured. No need to take your smartphone out, set it up. Just what you're saying, your it is captured. Um, Assistance, as we can visual, as we already discussed about the support assistant. And the other thing is the Google Assistant, like virtual assistants that we have. We can say, okay, give me this particular information. It can be shown right on the screen. And we can get the information while walking at any place, anytime. We don't have to we take our phone out, search it, and all those things. It is always there. Another application is the face recognition. So that would be whenever we are saying some, let's say you met a person. Many times this happens. Okay, we meet someone, but we forget his or her name, and it becomes kind of embarrassing to ask. But let's say we have that your class identifies the person. You okay, this is this person, and not just that. It gives a person information of that person as well. For example, last week I had conversation with uh, one of my friends for some work, and at that day it was his birthday. Now, even if though we had a conversation, we cannot remember each and every birthday, but with this class, it can identify, recognize, okay, and it can remind you as well. Okay, today is this particular event for this guy. We can congratulate them. We can it can record the last conversation. It can have the notes. that, okay, last time you met, you had this conversation. So you can carry on from the where you left off the last time. You don't need to repeat the conversation. You can follow up on different things that you had discussed in the last meeting. Let's say you are in the corporate environment, you are in these meetings, you divide that, okay, I will do this, you will do that, and when you meet again, it can remind you to get the status update or give us a status update or your of the things that you will discuss in the last meeting. So so this face recognition is again the machine learning technology. So machine learning and IoT are two very breakthrough technology going on currently, and there are many places where these two crosses path. So the job of the IoT device to capture some information and send it to the internet, and receive the information to the internet and perform some action. Now all the analytics is done on the server. So all the small device does not have much computation power, but server has a very good computation. It can perform lots of analytics. So these analytics can be done in various ways, and one of most powerful ways is the machine learning techniques. So another technique in machine learning is object detection. So whenever you have some object can detect, okay, in my view, I have laptop, I have mouse, I have keyboard, I have a water bottle, everything is captured. And one of the most thing that can is that you never lose your keys. Whenever you lose the key, okay, glass, where are my keys? Where I left my keys, and it can show, okay, this is a place, go take it. And that can make just that one particular feature can make life easier. We can search things through time. Okay, where is the last time I put my winter sweater? Like we put all this winter clothes somewhere, and after 1 year, when it comes time, we'll okay, where are these things or Diwali items that we have? All the things it can keep track automatically. So there are a couple of more things that happens in this IoT uh, with the smart glasses. That is, you can have all the maps, Google Maps. You can have that. Okay, when you are traveling, you can say, okay, show me map every time. That is again an IoT application, because you are getting the information of map uh, through internet, through a mobile, or it can directly be connected to the internet, and you will able to see it there. So before we get into the risk and securities of these devices, I want to mention why this innovation is happening now. So there are a couple of things. So let's start from the device. That okay, sensors has becoming smaller day by day. The smaller as the computation devices, the VLSI technology is improving. The Moore's law surprisingly is not breaking, even when we are reaching at the stage where we can count the size of a transistor in number of atoms. Still, the Moore's our computation power is continuously increasing. We can fit this entire communication chip into a small device. Antenna technology has improved a lot. That we can fit. We able to communicate. We have to have antennas, and it is fitted into small chips. We have the IoT. We have this protocols in place that reduce all the overheads. It can just send only the required information to the devices. We have right now we have all those signals, advances in the signal analysis that we study. Okay, we can convert it into we can perform Fourier transforms. We can clean up the noise into the signal to noise ratio is reduced a lot. So with all this improvements, we are able to reliably send our signals to the gateway. We have the speed. Internet speed has increased a lot. Now, when, like even 10 years ago, we were waiting for our Wikipedia page to load to read what is about the transistor, and now even our glasses can show an image directly taken from the cloud if within no time. It is from loading the Wikipedia page. Now we are having the live session that is continuously streaming my video to all of you guys in live environment. So we have come long way in increasing our bandwidth, like increasing our internet connectivity speeds. I cannot imagine if uh, how this COVID period would have went if we did not have the high speed internet connections. So things have become quite, uh, every technology has evolved at a particular stage that all the advancement is coming together and creating this beautiful system called IoT. The artificial intelligence has reached a is reaching at the level of human intelligence, where IBM Watson is depicting the in the natural language, so even the best players in the world. So now whatever you can see, you can hear, you can have computer analyzing the videos and sending you this information and real time. It can give you all the information you need in this world. And now we would live in the world where knowledge is very accessible. Whatever you want to know, whenever you want to know, you have that information. Information is uh, is readily accessible through all these IoT devices. Our life becomes very much automated. We don't have to do same stuff again and again. And as there is a famous quote that says, when knowledge becomes accessible, easily accessible, only ideas are worth paying for. So now we live in the time where we have to think about all this application, how we can bring all this together and make our life easier. That was a longer monologue. So till we goes into a gloomy topic of the risk of the IoT, are there any questions till now? Okay, I'll move forward with this. And if you have any questions, I spared like last minutes of this presentation just for the just for open-ended conversations. And so there are two risks involved in the wearable IoT devices. That is, one is the privacy risk. That is, now all your data is stored in the cloud, and how you can be stored there, you can be sure that companies are not is manipulating your data in which it should not have been. For example, let's say your heart rate is continuously monitored, your uh, how you are walking is monitored, and while you are driving it is also monitored, okay, at this particular time. And if you are drink driving, before you know, you will get the memo directly sent to your home that, okay, we know your we know your walking style, you know your heartbeat, and from just these two information we know that you are drunk and you drive at the same time. So uh, please pay up. So this is like a very this is kind of a good thing that, okay, thing that will get reduced, but it shows a particular flaw that your data is not private. Everyone has access to your heart information when you are sleeping, when you are awake. So if not everyone, if at least the company has that information. And same thing that we are seeing for the Google and Facebook backlash against this particular way. You have, uh, 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 you have, you have, uh, So tell us what you are doing with that. So it is. First is the privacy risk that we are readily handling. Security we so that okay, these are all the Bluetooth devices. You can know that the range of Bluetooth devices is several meters, and anyone in that vicinity can connect to a device and could have got the same. There are various loopholes continuously evolving, and companies are taking and fixing those, but still security risk always prevails. Next part is so next before we will start for the questions, I want to ask. Ivanko mentioned it when Google released this Google Glass in 2012. It was a breakthrough concept, okay, and it's a very revolutionary technology, but it is still not in the consumer market. The reason being that people do not know that okay, video recording is going on, someone is recording you, you're having the conversation, someone is recording. So that creates the inherent fear with the wearable systems that okay, someone is recording. With the smart pen you can just press a button and recording starts. Audio recording has become easier. So and you don't even have to take out your smartphone. So there are some fears prevail around us that okay, some risks are already there. Am I being recorded? Even if you genuinely wish someone happy birthday, you could know that okay, is Google Glass is sharing that information. So so there are three risks, I would say. Apart from privacy and security, there are moral risks associated with the IoT devices. And to do that, Google did not release the Google Glass into the consumer product, but it has packaged it into the enterprise edition. And now it is available, like many different companies are using this Google Glass for all these benefits that we discussed earlier. Thank you, everyone. I am Keval Davagan. You can reach out to me on my email or through LinkedIn or any other social media platform for anything related to this presentation, or if you have interest in discussing more about the machine learning and related stuff. And at the end, I would like to thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak at this event.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Let us keep a forum open for the questions. Any questions from the participants are most welcomed. Hello. Am I audible loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, any questions?
If we do not have any questions, I would like to propose a small activity, fun activity, that I request each and every one of okay, I can see a couple of messages that says audio is not clear. Was my audio audible through across this session?
Yeah, it was, but in between there were some glitches. So probably now it is clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
Still the audio
okay.
issues are persisting with the other participants?
Now it is clear. Audio is clear.
Okay. So.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So I would just want to propose a small activity that I have mentioned few of the IoT devices in my presentation. I want you to just point it out the various IoT devices that are not in the that I have missed, that you have seen somewhere. For example, I would give just a first example, that is smart vacuum cleaner. That is another IoT device, and it is very much helpful when you are working and you want to manage your house as well. So any other IoT device that you can think of that that is not covered in this presentation? You can post your ideas into the chat. We can have Kaushal says, nice session, Kyo. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you, sir. Smart footwear. So that's a great idea. So that is the steps counter steps you can count using smart band are not accurate at all. That even when I'm moving my hands in my presentation, my smart band is counting my steps. But with the smart footwear, it can accurately count your steps, because it is calculating steps on your leg movement, so your foot, and not your hand movement. So that's a great one. That is. I think that is all we have, and 15 minutes of your day back. Which are the worst? I got a question from Mr. Kilan Pancha, that is, as a machine learning engineer, which are the work responsibility assigned? So this is not IoT related question, but as a machine learning engineer, what we do generally is we have we get a data, we build a machine learning model to automate the processes in our company. So currently I'm working for FactSet, and there are various processes that are still done manually. For example, let's say what's still done manually, that is, let's say, language identification or extracting some data into the document, extracting profit and other information through the document can be automated using machine learning. So as a machine learning engineer, what we do day in and day out, we try different things. Some of them works, some of them doesn't work, but still every day we try different things. And basically it's a research field that we don't know the model that we are building will work or not. And when it is done, we do it is an iterative process. We increase our accuracy, and when it is done, we can provide it to our stakeholders. So the next comment is smart wearable device like band, using that parents can track their child during school hours. That's a very good suggestion. That's a very good thing to point out. I am not sure children. I'm not sure if the children will be comfortable parents tracking them during the entire day. If child is sleeping in the class, parents are able to see getting notifications. Okay, your child is sleeping. But a nice idea to have that. Sir, is there a battery issue in IoT wearable devices? So it's a very good thing that you have brought up. It is not in my slide. So in IoT devices, it just have two things: sensor, and it has to send sensor, the Bluetooth device. And this has become now so, it does not require very much battery life to operate a Bluetooth and sensor. There is only two things it operates. And the smart band that I am wearing right now, it is able to operate 7 days without having to recharge. And such different smart devices are available everywhere. Thank you, Raju, Professor Raju sir, for you. So that's all the comments. Anything else anyone want to point out? Anyone wants to discuss it? That's all. Thanks, everyone. And I will give it back to Hiren sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kirul sir. It was pleasure having you here. Thank you for such a wonderful session. Session was actually very informative, and indeed it would be very useful to the participants in understanding IoT and its integration with the wireless devices, as your expert lecture says about. So I thank you for sharing the time and your expertise on the topic. So thank you very much, sir. And for the participants, there is a attendance link shared here within the chat box. So you are requested to fill up the chat, the attendance link. And we are putting a 30-minute pause to the sessions here. We'll be assembling again at 3:30 p.m. for the next session by engineer Indresh Bhatia, who is a senior manager, Xylem Water Solutions Private Limited, and he'll be delivering session on industrial IoT. So see you soon at 3:30 p.m. We are ending up today's session here. Thank you all. Thank you, Kirul.
Thanks, everyone.